So it seems like Elizabeth May is really seriously considering stepping down. That's a big thing in Canada. Um, well, maybe not a really big thing, but it's newsworthy. Um, the Green Party isn't really it's not a serious party, but it gets a fair number of votes, right? It's very hard for them to win seats in a first past the post election. We can go through all this, but I mean, she's really the only serious leader they've ever had. And it's kind of seeing this swing over is going to make a big difference in the Canadian political landscape. This article is being written from a right-wing perspective. Maclean's, which is a right-leaning magazine in Canada, of major distribution. Like most of the press in Canada, it is right-leaning. It's strange, right? We have this we have such a larger left, and yet all our media is, it's taking the perspective that the party is running out of bounds and leaving its more moderate leader with a vehicle. Okay, you want to take that narrative, go with it. I'll run out of bounds with a party though, right? I just want to add that Mulcair's rejection of BDS was one of the reasons I lost interest in the party. It's not the only reason, and they were really harsh in their crackdown. Okay, they lost a lot of good MPs by refusing to call the Israeli state what it is. And I found myself in a situation where I was looking at the NDP and saying, well, what's the difference between the NDP and the Liberals? If anything, the NDP seemed to be running to their right. And we got to a point where it did seem like it made sense for them to merge. And as a left of NDP voter, I just got fed up and I said, okay, well, if you're going to be Liberals, I'm going to vote against you, right? When I vote for the NDP, it's never because I expect the NDP to win. It's because I'm protesting against the status quo. If the NDP are going to present themselves as the status quo, well, then I'm just going to vote for the status quo, but not because I support the status quo, in protest at the NDP. And so they spun the whole situation around. I ended up voting for the Liberals in protest at the NDP. It got that bad. And the BDS thing was one of the biggest, not the only, but one of the biggest factors, right? Another thing was the budget issue. I mean, they took out their deputy leader over this. Somebody that really ought to be running the party. Somebody that ought to be up for, the leadership review. And isn't even being considered. And so you look at the polling, and Trudeau's running at like close to 50% right now. I saw one model that suggested he would win 70% of the seats. These are majorities that we haven't seen in Canada since the 90s. But, and what Trudeau has managed to do is he's managed to get all of this NDP support, right? And yeah, he's leaned a little further left, right? Which is, what I've been yelling and screaming he needs to do, or what I was yelling and screaming that the Liberal Party needed to do for years before they did it, right? And so Trudeau has moved to the left, and by moving a little to the left, he is able to take advantage of this huge anti-conservative vote. For the last several cycles in Canada, the elections have been about voting against the Conservatives rather than voting for anybody. But it never made any sense because you were just voting for the Conservatives light, right? And so Trudeau was able to move himself enough to the left to bring NDP supporters in, but that's only half of it. The other thing that happened was that the NDP moved itself out of the left. And so this whole argument, well, what's the point? Like, we don't want to vote for the Liberals, they're just the Conservatives light. We'll vote for the NDP instead, that collapsed. Because all of a sudden, the NDP were also Conservative light. And if you're going to give me the devil I know and the devil I don't, I'm going to pick the devil I know, right? And so the Liberals get elected on this huge majority. If you vote for the NDP and you get the Liberals, and you vote for the Liberals and you get the Liberals, you might as well just vote for the Liberals and not split the vote. And the NDP, as a consequence of that, the NDP are running at like 10% right now. This time last year, people were talking about them maybe getting a majority government. What happened? They started talking like Conservatives. They dropped the facade. And they destroyed themselves in the process. You will still hear activists say things like the NDP has a brand. The brand is dead. They just prove that they're willing to compromise their principles to win power. And no protest voter will vote for that in protest. That's what they're voting against. That's what they're protesting. And so the Greens, as the next largest party, that's kind of sort of on the left, has come up, and we're seeing this influx of leftists into the Green Party, which is good. We're also dealing with deindustrialization. We're moving into a post-industrial society. I think we had this rant before. And the Greens represent kind of a post-leftist concept, right? If we're moving beyond industrialization, and we're leaving the industrial era in the past, well, then we need to leave the Workers' Party in the past too, because what is a Workers' Party without an industrial system? It's just another way for the elite to control people, right? Just another vehicle for corruption, and that's what we see happening. The major unions in Canada have gotten really, really, really bad. Unifor has become horrific. And so the left is jumping ship and saying, okay, the economy that created this is gone. It's just more status quo corruption. We want something different, right? And so this is the future of the left. And Elizabeth May is standing there as a pro-life minister, just blocking the way. You know, she's standing there as a crossing guard, you know, checking the kids for candy. That's what it seems like. She's just got to get out of the way, you know? Her time has passed. So I'm agreeing with this article. I'm agreeing with it from the other side of the spectrum, but I am agreeing with it. She said, you know, this person is saying maybe it's time for, you know, her to go her separate way because the Greens have become loony left, and she's too reasonable for that. she deserves to leave it behind. Well, loony leftist here, and I'm kind of agreeing that maybe it's time that she join a more moderate party that more accurately reflects her views on things, right? She might get more done that way. Would she be a good environment minister? She probably would, actually, yeah. But she'd have to join the Liberal Party first. For what it's worth, I don't really think that apartheid is a good comparison either. The South African state was a type of slavery. The blacks would do the work for the whites and live apart from them. The Israelis have actually rejected calls for apartheid, which have been presented repeatedly by the Americans. Something that when John Kerry first came in, was one of the first things he did was he showed up. He's like, okay, let's build, all of these, plants. We'll set up, factories in the West Bank, create lots of jobs, create all kinds of goods. We can flood, build the economy in the West Bank by, and then we can flood Israel with goods. Great. He was proposing apartheid. And the Israelis were just like, no, we want our jobs for our people. A commitment by Israeli to apartheid would be a humongous step forward, because it would indicate that they don't plan on just killing them all. But the Israelis have been clear that that's not what they want. They want a final solution, not slavery and apartheid. It's a full genocide that's in process. Genocide in slow motion, is what they said. Or what some people are saying, and have been saying for a long time. So the South African comparison, it's not a good comparison. It's never been a good comparison. The better comparison is to the American genocide of Native Americans. It is a colonial process. Right? We want to talk about the genocide of the way the Americans treated the natives, not the way the Americans treated the Africans, right? To get our heads around it properly. So, I don't think BDS has a high likelihood of success. And I'm going to cite Chomsky as he's explained this, very, very well. But I think it's an important moral position to take, even if it backfires. A better way to phrase it is like this. I may agree that supporting BDS is likely futile, but I think that rejecting it is morally reprehensible. Even if I don't think that this is productive, even if I think this will backfire, even if I don't think this is the right way to go, how do you step back? How do you argue against it? How do you argue in favor of trading with this state that's carrying out a genocide in slow motion? I can't. And so to argue you want to leave the party, see you later.